In 1926, right before the Depression, uh, there was an auction on the farm near Fingal, North Dakota, and the father of the 12 Kurtz kids who were raised in the house that's in the background to your right in the picture had died a year earlier, and the farm could not continue after that, so the bank foreclosed and they had to sell everything. This is one of those Kurtz children, my Aunt Dorothy, celebrating her 95th birthday in 2012, and one of her grandchildren and two great-grandchildren are surprising her, and one of her daughters, Joyce, is taking pictures. The party was at Judy, her other daughter's place. Uh, Dorothy remembers making the long trip at age 9 to the big house on the river in Minnesota that her mother had found out about from former North Dakota neighbors. And then through a really heroic family effort where there was really nothing but the big house, the Kurtz Brothers Resort came to be. Now it's called Riverside Resort. And Dorothy was there from the beginning. And I was part of the next generation to live on the property. My dad and Dorothy's brother, Art, ultimately became the Kurtz Resort owners. Here we're going to see Dorothy, who probably at age 2, with her older brothers and sisters. And a few years ago, Dorothy gave me a lot of pictures from the early years with, I guess, emphasis on my part of the family, but also the resort. And at her party, I had the pictures on my computer mixed in with a few miscellaneous ones. So after the party, and while Joyce is getting, I guess, some sloppy joes ready for some of us who hung around, Dorothy sat down with my sister Elaine and me and talked about the pictures. Here are some of us cousins, me, Glenn, on the lower left, my sister Elaine on the upper right, children of Art. Next to me is Lynette, daughter of Ray, then Dorothy, then Ken, the oldest cousin, the son of Louise. He actually worked for my dad at the resort. Next to him, Carol, the daughter of Ines, then behind Dorothy, Judy, her daughter, and her other daughter, Joyce, next to Judy. So anyway, here we go with me, Elaine, and Dorothy. Let's see, is it okay if I record you talking about this stuff?
It's what?
Can I record you?
Oh, that's what you want to do? Sure. Sure, that's all right.
Let me double check something here. That's cabin 4.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder what the name of it was.
Yeah, and Kenny thought maybe that old car was like in the 20s. That might have been in the 30s, the one little newer one behind it there.
Look at that.
So that was cabin 4, the way it used to look.
Uh-huh.
And then
See?
that's the way it looks now.
Yeah. See, every new owner.
Yeah. The ice house.
Yeah. They would do something more to improve it. They didn't rest on their laurels, from the work that the previous ones had done to bring it to that point. And each one did a little bit more until it's just gotten to be a beautiful place.
So
see, now these stones Uncle George put in.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, the sour that was out. That was his great-grandpa. Mm-hmm. He's a great-grandson. Mm-hmm. And he was Mom's brother. Mm-hmm. And so he would come and really, he and Aunt Julia were separated. And Aunt Julia was living with their daughter Dorothy. They had 2 children, daughter Dorothy and a boy Ray. And so then the John Sauer that was out at the reunion was the son of Ray. So that was his grandfather then. And so it was the Depression, and so if he didn't have any money to go anywhere because he would be around looking for a job or something, he had lost his feed and seed store. And after all, there was a drought here, and farmers couldn't grow anything, so they weren't buying from him, and the economy was terrible anyway. So he lost that or sold whatever, and so he was out at the resort a lot, and I would wash and iron. Mom would wash, but I would iron his shirts, starch the collars and down the front and the cuffs and that, so he'd look nice while he was looking for a job. And so anyway, he felt obligated or something. He couldn't pay for his keep, and we didn't have the money, and Mom didn't have, with all the we were living at home. And so this is what he did. Now, where he got the stones, I don't know, but he laid those stones. And then,
beautiful.
Of course, But that was Uncle George who did that. So there's a little story to that you might like to have heard.
And I didn't know why Dad took him out. I
think
guess
he had to enlarge it.
Yeah, I guess he felt he had to for some reason.
Well, enlarge it, because so many cottages were being built, and it was a trailer park and so on.
I think there's Dad sitting on the porch there.
Yeah, that's art.
And that was before the store
was
built on there.
I remember one time I was sitting on the steps there, and Mom came out, and she said, "You dye your hair?" And I said, "No." Why? And she said, "Well, there's so much red in it," but the sun was shining on it.
Yeah.
And my dad had a red mustache and a lot of red in his hair, I guess. So, and that's art.
Pretty handsome guy, yeah? Now here it looks like maybe the store, if I'm looking at this right.
Well,
I think maybe when this picture was taken, this was probably in the early 40s, with Mom standing in front of the buildings. I'm not sure when they put that store on that end of the house.
Well, that would have been over here, but then do you see that that's boarded up for a store?
Well, it looks like it's...
It has the window.
Yeah, I think now I think this wall is gone, I think. If I'm looking, I might be looking at it wrong.
That's not the stained glass window, is it? Go back one. Next one.
The other one. See, I'm thinking, oh no.
That's the stained glass window right there.
Yeah.
So.
All right. I'm thinking that she was standing over here.
Yeah, so the one with Mom, maybe this has been closed in. And we're looking at that window.
Yeah, but could she have been standing at this window?
No,
well,
it's a smaller window.
You see these. See these.
Yeah.
Lattice work here.
The store, the store
had
a window though, so maybe that's not the stained glass window.
So and everybody thought that was pretty clever when Art put barrels on there so that as the water raised and lowered, you always had your dock. And then, see, we had the old wooden boats that when we first came and finally went into that, and he wasn't pitching to take care of the leaks in it anymore.
So there's Ray and Dad working on a car? That's Ray, I guess.
That's Ray.
Is that Dad?
It looks like Dad, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where's your dad? Here's his legs.
Although, did Henry kind of look like Dad?
No.
Ray did, I thought. But that's not Ray. Uncle Bill, I mean.
No, I don't know who this girl, that's a female, isn't it?
Yes.
Under the car?
That could have been me when I was home on vacation.
Really?
That looks like me.
Really?
And then maybe that was Art under there. Called him my big ham,
Yeah.
And we were pretty close.
Did you see the pump there?
Isn't that cute?
Yeah, some of these are pictures I got from Jeanette. I kind of mixed them. There's Dad under the car. It says 1937 on the license plate.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this is before... This is the door to the basement, I think, and this is the door to the kitchen. This is before Dad had built the store on the other end of the house and before the garage. I think now the garage is right where he's laying.
And then he also took out that window and made a deal where he could slide his boats down and work on them in the cold weather during the winter, have them ready for spring.
I'm not exactly sure what corner this. I'm not sure.
Is that Dad? That looked like you.
That's your dad.
That's nice.
So there they are.
Very nice.
So this is probably before they were married. The black car behind him.
I bought her wedding ring, her diamond ring. You know that. Yeah, Art asked me to get that.
There's some steps there. I wonder if those were from the store then.
Now, who is this?
This was, I think this was before Dad built the store, so I think these steps went right straight into the kitchen, didn't they?
Kitchen?
In the house.
by the back to going into the kitchen.
Yeah.
There was a cement steps and then kind of a.
Yeah, although these don't look like cement, so I'm not sure.
And they didn't. The steps didn't go right into the kitchen. There was this stoop for what do you call it, porch-like thing, you know, and I think there was railings on it too. I remember, because Bill was a cigar smoker at the time before he was married, and he'd have a stub of a cigar and he'd lay it up there on the railing, and then he'd go out fishing, and Mom would have a fit. She says, "I know they're expensive, and is that just burning away?" Oh, now who is that?
Well, I can't tell if that's Jeanette or Florence in the wheelbarrow.
Oh, the wheelbarrow. I bet it is. Oh.
That's a cute picture.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's real cute.
Oh, here's these are cement steps, so that must have been the kitchen.
Well, that's the kitchen door, and here's the what I call
a little porch.
And here's a railing. See on each side. Yeah.
Here's me going in the first grade.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
See his lunchbox?
Yeah. Oh yeah, old lunchbox. Yeah.
And then there was you just came out of the kitchen then.
Yeah, I think it just came out of the kitchen.
And on the porch.
I was in Montana when with Mom, and I don't know who else, maybe Elaine, and then Dad for like 2 weeks, and then Dad built the store and surprised Mom when she came back in.
Oh.
Picked her up from the train, we came home, and she was just amazed that he built all that.
I see.
But that's the way it used to look. So that's the door to the basement. And,
see, that's the cement steps, and then,
oh, here's some lattice work here.
The railings.
Maybe those were the steps.
Yeah, that's, and then you go right into the kitchen.
Who's that? Who is that? Is that you?
It's probably me.
Wow. Oh, look at that. The hats.
And that's you,
are.
right?
Yeah, that's me.
So that was probably in the early 40s, too?
Well, I left home to go to work in 35, go to Chicago. And had to be there a year before you got any vacation, So it could be the very late 30s or early 40s. When I was married in 41.
Oh.
And so it would have to be either 1940 or the late 30s. I think that's cute.
That's probably me.
That's you.
That's probably the bay window there. And then it took Dad a long time to finish putting the siding. He called it his tar paper shack.
Yeah. Look at that, how old we are, and we still have the tar paper up there. Oh, my word.
Oh, maybe it was school for Jeanette, maybe?
That's
probably
Jeanette,
her first day.
Oh, and then we used to...
Now who is this?
That's Elaine, I think. Playing on that bar out by the road.
Oh.
That's right, we used to have a flagpole there.
Oh. Jeanette and Florence,
I guess.
Or Jeanette and me.
And here they are with the Rambo, apparently a little few years later.
Oh, yeah.
Picking up paper. Oh. Wow.
So Florence is little. She's probably, a couple years old.
Oh.
So...
Look at those
Jeanette
legs,
never
guys.
changes in looks, does she? You can always tell it's Jeanette.
Yeah.
But you and Florence have changed a little on it, but there's always something about the features of Jeanette.
There's the old Gravely lawnmower. Put a lot of miles on that.
Yeah.
Now, but is that Jeanette?
I think it's Florence.
You think it's Florence?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not Jeanette.
Yeah, I think it's Florence. Oh.
That was the first day of school again, I guess. Oh, here's the little go-kart.
Now, to go back again to that one. I don't think I'd seen that one. That's a nice picture, isn't it?
That's
Looking
right.
down
It's
at
in
the
the
lake.
fall.
And, yeah. Must have been in the very early spring before the trees were all leafed out.
Well,
could see
spring
down
or
there.
fall. Maybe it was in the...
I think it's
Yeah,
fall.
it could
when
be in the
leaves
fall. Well,
fall.
are yellow.
yeah, school was starting. Well, be the same thing in the spring for school. Yeah.
But
And that's the fish house that he
remember,
built.
when Dad bought this. We made a trip to Chicago and visited Louis and Bill, and I think either Bill or Louis knew somebody who had this cart for sale. So Dad strapped it on top of the car, and then I didn't know it was up there. So on the way home, we stopped at a restaurant, and then we walked back out to the car. I looked up there and I said, "Dad, that looks like a cart, a go-kart." And he says, "Oh, I'm going to make a two-wheeled wheelbarrow."
A two-wheeled wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't want to tell you, huh?
I don't know if he just thought of that on the spur of the moment, but
just because he wanted to surprise
he wanted to surprise us. So he put it together,
Wow.
and then at Christmas time we had a letter from Santa Claus to go down in the basement, and there it was down there. So. There used to be a lot more weedy in the bay. Let's see.
Now, is this
Richmond.
looking to East Lake?
It's looking at Richmond, because that must be the water tower.
Oh, I see. Yeah, either Richmond or Cold Spring.
No, it's Richmond.
It'd be Richmond.
It's looking
Richmond,
from the dock.
huh?
Yeah, see the Richmond water
Okay,
tower.
yeah, because it would be this way is where the old dam was,
Yeah.
Yeah, and Glenn, Joyce's Glenn, would always really argue with me about that old dam. There was never a dam there, and I said, well, there was. And that's where Clara and I were. Clara almost drowned.
Near the resorts there was a dam? There's a dam in Cold Spring. Is that the one you're talking about, Cold Spring?
Well, no, that would replace the one. That's why this was the old dam. There wasn't a dam there, but it was where a dam used to be.
Where was it?
It wouldn't have been in here then. This I think is looking out from the resort, and that's a narrow passage where you start down the river to Cold Spring.
Yeah, not that way. It would be the opposite direction. We go over to Zimmerman's Lake, and you'd go directly this way to East Lake.
And there was something over there.
And then this way to Zimmerman Lake, I think it was. And I know we went over to see the Socrates, and that was where Shannon, Taj, her parents,
well, that was
a
up here.
summer home over there.
That was through this little channel.
All right. Well,
That's
then,
where they. And then
all
theirs
right.
was
Well,
on
then
the
the
left.
old dam would have been on this side, and then go through. Yeah, and that's where I can almost give you the spot where Clara went in, and I helped pull her out. Gosh, when I think of that.
Yeah.
And she'd visit, and she'd say, I just think about that, she says, and we could have both been under the ice until it melted in the spring.
Yep.
They'd have never found our bodies.
How far down did she go into the water? Was she all the way in? Or did she just slip part way into the...
Well, she didn't go over her head, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But what was awful about that is the clothes you wore at the time. You had Lyle socks on, and then you had grandma knit socks that you'd have over that, and then you'd have high button shoes on, and rubber boots over those, high buckled boots.
Yep, overshoes.
And so that was just on your feet.
Oh,
and then your rest of your stuff, you had wool clothes, underskirts was wool, and long johns you were wearing. That was down the legs yet too. And so, and then the coats were so heavy. I figured we carried about 12 to 14 pounds as we walked to school.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine when that got wet and soaked.
Yep.
And so she went in, because what she did, was do like this with her to see what that spot was, and blue spot when everything else was white, and did like this, and of course it wasn't frozen over solid enough because the fish house had moved. We didn't know anything about that.
Sure.
And as she did, then she went in for feet first, see. And so and then she grabbed quickly the edge of the
ice.
that square thing, the ice that was solid, and I dug myself in. It was kind of crusted, and I dug my foot in, and she gave me her one hand, and then with the other hand, in the help that I could give her, she tossed one leg over the edge and got,
awful.
and got out. But the awful part of it is that, and I was telling it to Todd and Scott when they were little, and they said, "Oh, Mom, if you had been a Boy Scout, you'd have gotten an award for it."
But
something I was going to say there.
Or you tried to hide it from Grandma?
The hard part was Clara in her, all soaking wet, soaking wet. And it was wintertime, and it was cold, and we had to walk from that part of the old dam where I showed you, across the ice and up
the hill.
The hill. And we got into that old shack where we put the pig in that we carried from the farm, the pig and a cow. And there was a kerosene lantern, lamp in there, or kerosene burner of some kind, to just keep the chill off for the pig. And so I told Clara that I would go up to the house, and Mom always waited for her mail. And she'd walk down that long driveway and wait. She knew about the time the mailman came, see. And so when I would go up and somehow sneak the clothes down so that when you go down the basement off the kitchen, and I put them in that landing there. And there was that door that went to the outside, and I put them there in the landing as I collected the things. And, of course, we had so much that we grew into from others, and so many things, and relatives would send, too, that Mom never could keep track of where everything was. And so there was more than one coat, and things like that. Anyway, then I watched for Mom to go down for the mail, and as soon as her back was turned, I rushed real quickly over to that shed and gave this to Clara. And there in that cold shed, she had to change clothes. And then after everything was said and done, we didn't know what to do with her wet things. Little kids, each problem was separate and came upon you.
Yeah.
And so we thought, well, we go over to Jackson's, and that's a shady knoll. And they didn't have any children, it was just the two of them. And he kind of had a sense of humor. And so we thought that he wouldn't tell Mom. And so they dried out the clothes, and it took, I don't know, a month or so, I guess, for that coat to dry out.
Probably.
Yeah. And so eventually we got this stuff back in, and Mom never knew about it. But, that's awful, because Clara never came down with pneumonia, a cold or anything. It's a wonder. It's just a wonder, because I tell you, the circumstances involved. Yeah, so she talked about that in our watermelon episode.
Do you remember how old you were then?
Well, that was our first winter there.
So that was
we didn't know anything about the ice.
Or 1926 or 27?
Well, it would have been 1926, because we moved there in October. School was on. And that was in 26. I was about 8, 9 years old, and Clara was 2 years older. So that's the age I'm talking about of those kids.
It's ice water is unbelievably cold. I was watching a show where they were going to test people's. They were going to show try to determine how well people could endure pain, and they'd have them dip their arm in ice water. If you're in there for any length of time.
I had to do that not too long ago. We had our Bible study over, and we put ice water in the cooler and the pop, and then after they left, I was cleaning that out, and just in and out with my hand for each bottle. My hand was numb, just numb.
Yeah, well, you get hypothermia. That's very serious too.
Yeah.
So we were just lucky that nothing really serious ever happened. Yeah, that was quite an episode, and we didn't think anything of it. The main concern we had was to keep it from Mom.
Yep, keep a secret.
Yeah, isn't that awful?
Yeah, sure, it's awful.
Let's see whose batteries run out first, my computer or yours, Dorothy?
Take a long time before you run off mine. So, like I told him last night at Joyce's, any questions you have, I'm the last one. So
you have to tell us the answers.
I'm 95, don't know how long I'll be around, so ask them now.
At least 5 more years.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that, and then these are just the old, that's cabin 3. I think that's
cabin 3. Isn't that the one that was over on the other side?
Yeah.
And we were naming the cabins at one time, and
Yeah.
and so
I think
told Bill's
oh, wait, I
Louise
could be wrong. That could
told
be.
Bill's Louise that she could name that one, and her dad, she was adopted, you know. That's why they could get married. There's no blood relationship, but my dad's sister was her mother, and she married a man who came over from Scotland. So she always maintained she was part Scotch.
Bonnie
And so she
Bray.
named that one Bonnie Bray.
Ah,
Bonnie Bray.
Mhm.
I remember Bonnie Bray.
Yeah, the cottage on the hill, Bonnie Bray.
I'm looking at this, but now that I look at it, this could be 5. There might have been steps going up to 5. This could be 7, but there's another. That's 6, I think. Rest Haven.
Rest Haven.
There's an outhouse behind that one,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not sure. That was 11. There's a cabin.
You know, there's that little joke always.
Here,
where
this
There's
was 3.
Bonnie
I
Bray.
think that was Bonnie Bray.
Mine was down by the
For
lake.
sure, I think.
Yeah, that looks more like it. I remember
Yeah.
it was up higher and they
Yeah.
had the stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she named that Bonnie Bray.
Mm.
There's the house again before the garage
Uh-huh.
was put on it.
Uh-huh.
And then, well, there's the flat bottom boat. This might have even been an earlier picture, because the flat bottom boats were there first, right? And then, then
They
they
were,
gradually
yes.
got the
Oh, yes.
round bottom ones.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's Mom and Dad sitting.
Because I remember him
in the
pitching
background.
those
That could
leaks,
be.
you know, for
That could be Mom, Dad.
Maybe that's you.
Could be.
that one. Do you think that's one?
I don't know.
That looks like Dad. I think
Could've
that's
been them.
Dad for sure. Probably Mom.
Kind of
and
looks
you.
like him. That could have been me.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Yeah, it could have been. Well, I wonder if that's an outhouse up there.
Looks
Because
like
this
it.
is one. Was there an outhouse on the way down to the beach? Do you remember
Well,
where?
there'd have to be something for the cottages
Yeah.
before they got REA and then lights and
Yeah.
so on. So.